Okay. So my name is Robert Kazar. I'm with KLW Municipal Inc. We're a full-service real estate appraisal company. We've been hired by the town to update the assessments and or do a reassessment of all the properties in the town. You want to?
My name's Tina Uckel. I'm the assessor.
I'm Dana Pashley. I'm the data collector.
Leanna Stanley, I'm the assessor's clerk.
She keeps us all in line.
So what this is just to give you an overview of what a reassessment project is and how this project is planned to go. So the goal of the project is to establish uniform values that are fair and equitable across all property types in the town. It's important to know reassessments projects do not raise tax levies. Tax levies are separate from the reassessment or from assessed values. Reassessment projects provides an equitable distribution of the tax levy. Whether we like it or not, in the country, all of our property taxes are ad valorem or at value, so we pay based on what the value of our property is worth. Now, when you look at the budget versus levy, the budget, any municipal unit, entity, whether it's a town, a village, a city, school district, fire district, they put together a budget. What the budget is what that municipality needs to have in order to operate, to provide the services that they provide for the town. When you look at revenue sources from other places, there's grant money, there's state funding, fundraisers, service fees for like permits and things like that. If you take the budget, subtract all those other funding sources, what you're left with is the levy. And the levy is what is the responsibility of the property owners to pay, or what the town taxes will be for all the property owners to pay to make up the budget. When we talk about assessment equity with respect to assessments and real property means properties are assessed at a uniform percent of value. For this project, we want to be at 100%, which means that we want the assessed value when we're done with the project to be reflective of what you'd be able to sell the house for, or market value, or reasonably close. And properties that have similar values, they pay similar taxes. If all assessments are similar to the market value, then everybody is paying what we like to say is their fair share. You're not paying more than you should, you're not paying less than you should. If one property or neighborhood is over or under assessed, some people may be paying too much in taxes, some people may be paying too little. Then you end up having assessment inequity. Just give you an example of inequitable assessments. If you look at these two properties, very similar, in 2012, they both had the same market value, $200,000. They were both assessed at $200,000. Fast forward 13 years, both properties have appreciated in value. One property has gone up to $600,000, and one property remained at $400,000, or increased its value to $400,000. Their assessments stayed the same, so they haven't changed. They're paying the same amount of taxes. So now you end up having, well, that doesn't look great. I'll fix that. Both properties are paying the same amount of money, but property A is paying less than what they should because their market value is much higher, and property B is paying more than what they should because, again, we have inequity in the assessments. Property taxes are based on their assessed value. Market value, which is what we're trying to achieve here, is the most probable price that property would sell for in an open competitive market where the buyer and the seller are equally motivated. There's no undue duress. And you have market value, what we call an arm's length transaction. How's market value determined? The assessor or us, we don't drive market value, we don't create value. Market value is created by the buyers and sellers in that market. The assessor in our company, we monitor what's happening as far as value changes and what things are selling for. When we look to come up with a value on properties, we look at comparable properties that have sold, make comparisons to your properties to determine what we think the market value should be. What drives market value? Oftentimes it's location. Different locations properties in different locations may sell for more or less depending on what the market participants think about that particular location. As I said, some locations are more desirable than others. And it's market participants who determine the demand for a specific neighborhood or a specific property type. What else drives value? There's a number of things. Economic influences, such as the demand for houses in neighborhood locations and the supply of homes that are for sale. In lots of parts of the country, there's not enough inventory for people, or there's more demand than there is for inventory. What ends up happening is now you have a lot of people competing to buy the same house. Supply and demand, the lower the supply, the higher demand, the higher the price. Interest rates also play a role in value. The lower the interest rate, the more house somebody can afford because they're paying less in interest. And then again, with the location, the availability of amenities and jobs, consumers' desire and quality, condition, and amenities of property. So all of those things play into value. Something to think about is when we send out our assessments, is the new assessment, is it reflective of what you'd be able to sell the house for? If it is, then the new assessed value would be considered to be fair, right? Because we want the assessed value to reflect what the property is worth. We have a bunch of additional information and resources. If any of you want me to send you a PDF of this presentation with these resources, if you could just put your email address next to your name in the sign-in sheet, and I'll be glad to email it to you later today. And with that, we can answer any questions.
So what's triggering the reassessment? That's probably a good question, right?
Well, a reassessment should be done every 4 years, a cyclical reassessment. And one hasn't been done here since 2012.
Okay.
In addition to that, because of the inequities caused by, as you can see, what properties are selling for right now and what they're assessed for is completely out of whack. I mean, we're seeing things selling for minimally double their assessed value and sometimes triple, sometimes even more. Because sales are coming in. So in order to make that fair for everybody, this is the only way to do that. I mean, because if you buy a house that's assessed for $200,000 that you just paid $600,000 for, you're only going to pay tax on $200,000. But I still paying tax on, it's just not fair. It's not equitable. So
is now the best time to do it, being that inflation is coming down, but market values are coming down. But is it the time? Is there a time? Are you under a certain time constraint?
Other than one hasn't been done since 2012, no. But I can flip that around. Is there ever a good time? There's always something. It seems like, even personally, there's always something, that happens that.
Real estate values and markets are constantly changing. That's a reason why I'm a real estate appraiser. I do appraisal work for mortgages, right, for home equities. Fannie Mae lenders, they tell us, we can't use a comparable that's over a year old. And in certain cases, they only want us to use sales that are under 3 months old because markets change so quickly. And that could be up and down, but we look at talking with people in my industry, whether it's realtors or bankers, other appraisers, when interest rates were so low in 20 and 21, I mean, it was basically free money. You know, you can get, I know people that refinance their house at 2.3% when you could invest in a CD and get 5%, right? Where we thought, you know, we knew the rates were artificially low, they're going to be coming back up. It's really gonna hamper the market and really tamper it down. And interest rates went up, they went up, you know, into the 7s, and what happened? Nothing. Values still kept going up. So, you know, is it the best time? And we hear a lot, oh, well, you're using inflated values to come up with our numbers. Well, that's not really true, because we're looking at the value of the property as of a specific date, which for this project is July 1 of 2025. So we're not considering any sale that occurs after July 1. We're considering sales up to July 1 to determine the value. Now, going forward, if there is a significant change in the market and the assessor's office is going to maintain 100% equalization and review that on a regular basis, then things may have to drop, right? But we look at it in 1 year segments. So is there ever a good time to do it? I mean, if it's completely stable, then it's most reasonable and things, you know, people feel more comfortable about it, but I've yet to do a project and where people are like, well, now, where somebody didn't say, now's not the right time to do it.
So let's talk about the comparables, because you know, here, and not everyone's from the lake, but there aren't a lot of sales year over year.
Right.
And what is comparable, right? You know, on paper, my property might look a certain way. It doesn't always take into account the fact that we have 94 steps down to the water and that we're all rock and versus someone else. And you know, how do you figure out comparables when there aren't a lot of sales and every property, frankly, is fairly unique?
That becomes a challenge. And we look at, so when we do our process of doing the reassessment is right now, Tina and Dana are doing data review, looking at all the properties in the town to make sure that what we call inventory, or the information on each property, is current and up to date. And that's what we can see from the outside of the house, and take into consideration things like, you know, slope, overall condition, additional amenities to that property. Then we will review sales and we'll pick sales the best we can. It's not perfect, but that's why we also have adjustment processes, and then we also do review. So we'll be out looking at properties, doing field review, we have aerial photography, to try and address all of those issues in our review process. At the very end of the project, not the end of the project, it'll be February, March of 26, everyone will receive what's called an assessment disclosure notice. That notice will tell you what your current assessed value is, what it's going to. At that point in time, we also offer the opportunity for property owners to meet with us in what we call informal meetings. It's by appointment. You can come in and sit down and talk to myself or one of our appraisers and find out how did we get to where we got to. Okay? And at that point in time, we make sure that we're, you know, because we're only looking at the outside of the house, there might be condition issues on the inside that we don't know about. There might be situations or easements or encroachments or special situations that exist all the time that we need to, you know, figure out a way to take into consideration. So at that point in time, in informal meetings, like an exchange of information, so we hear the concerns of the property owner of what might be wrong with that property, if you will, and then to make sure that we address it.
What's the timeline between the mailing of the disclosure notice to an informal? Is there a time, 40 days, 30 days? How long do we have if we want to do an informal appeal?
Typically, we'll send out the letters and start the meetings approximately a week later, a week and a half later.
And what's the duration of that appeal timeline?
That was what I was wondering.
Typically we do it over 2 to 3 weeks. But depending on, it depends on how many people, how many calls we get, right? We do get to a point where we have to cut it off. So we have to have a point, and a letter will go along with that assessment disclosure notice that will have instructions on where to call to schedule an appointment, and the time frame in which to do it. Because with every property owner that we meet, we have to review all that information. We have to make sure that we get into the database, update whatever we need to update, tag, I'll call it tag, it's putting a code on that particular property information to make sure that another letter is generated May 1st, a tentative goal.
Yeah, so,
So we have the informal meeting process, right? But then we have work to do, so we need time to get that done, and then we have to get the roll. We have to get all our work done and get the database to the county, a week and a half before May 1st, so that they can do their processing for final or for tentative roll.
Yeah, usually it's like the beginning of April that the county asks for the download,
yeah,
so
I
that
think
they can prepare tentative rolls, so we go and pick that up.
one of our challenges up here is we're seasonal, and a lot of people aren't winterized.
Right.
They close down, Columbus Day, don't open until Memorial Day. They're physically not present.
I believe that we can set that up via Zoom or one of
Yes,
those.
we do, actually we do Microsoft Teams, but we set up remote informal meetings. And whether that's a video conference meeting, like a Zoom type call, or just a phone call, either way. We've done a lot of work in seasonal communities, and so we've made sure that we have all means available for property owners to, express their concerns or get us information. We'll also accept if somebody wants to mail us information or email us information. We also have, we'll also accept that as well.
To grieve though, you physically have to be there, correct?
That's in May.
Yeah.
Well, May you can file. Okay, so we'll go through the whole process here. Once the tentative roll is filed, that roll, anything in that assessment roll, inventory, information on each property, and the assessed value is frozen. Nobody can make any changes, okay, after May 1st, except the Board of Assessment Review. The Board of Assessment Review meets the fourth Tuesday here? The fourth Tuesday in May. And what that is it's a formal grievance process for property owners to file. They have to fill out an application. It's an RP 524 form. Include all your supporting documentation why you disagree with the value of the property, and get it submitted to the assessment office prior to grievance day. On grievance day, the Board of Assessment Review meets, and you can have a hearing or non-hearing, so you can be present or not. And then they look at the information that you provide about your property and why you think the assessed value is not appropriate, review the information that is available to them, list of sales, things like that, and how the value is determined. And then the Board of Assessment Review makes a recommendation of potential change in assessed value.
And it's been a long time since I bought a property, but as an appraiser, I would usually see like the three comparables that would go into kind of creating that assessment. What do you provide anything to the homeowner about how that assessment was developed, other than this, general guidelines, like any specifics around comparables, or you talked about slope, condition, etc.
So we do have a document, but it's not as detailed as an appraisal report. But the appraisal report is also very different in that when you're doing an appraisal for like a mortgage or a home equity, I come out, I look at your house, I go through the entire house, inside and outside. And it's a detailed analysis on the property. And it gets more generalized when we do it for assessments, because we're not looking at a specific property, we're looking at a universe of properties. And we're trying to make sure and apply all the same factors to all of those properties. Now we don't get into minutia, if you will. So we do have a document that will show all the comparable sales that we use, that we provide property owners typically during the informal meeting process. It's not something that we can generate and make publicly available in a mass way.
Okay.
It's the limitations in the database,
Yeah.
it's not anything that we're trying to hide, it's just
Mhm.
the database that we use, it's called RPS v4. The V4 version came out somewhere around 2001.
The Stone Age, pretty
Um,
much.
and to be honest with you, it's basically a Windows face on top of a DOS program that was developed in the 70s.
It's
so-
very slow and hard to work with.
And over the years, it has not been updated. There's patches and there's changes in things in the assessment world that New York State, their programmers add things onto this program. So it's, let's just say there's a lot of nuances to it. But the New York State is in the process of developing a different version. We'll see what that looks like. But that's gonna be web-based and we'll see. So getting all that information out to make it available to property owners is very difficult. Now, Tina and everyone, and Dana and Leanne have done a great job of compiling sales, arm's length transactions, updating their website. I urge you, if you want any information about assessments, go to the town website. You can find all the sales going back how many years? Quite a few years.
Not too many, but I think it's 2015 maybe.
Okay. Quite a few years.
Yeah.
So you can find all the sales data for the entire town, which are considered arm's length transactions. There's also a reassessment page that they put up that has information about the project, what we're doing and how we're doing it and things like that. So, and at the end of the project, we'll also have other resources available for property owners with maybe a compilation of sales the pool of sales that we use to develop the assessed values of all the time.
I would like to circle back to your question about when is a good time. You know, really anytime, because I'm not the type of person who's looking at the market as being high right now. I'm looking at just trying to make things equitable for all the taxpayers of the town of Webb. And I would do the same thing if the market was going low. I would say, hey, it's time for reassessment, because you know, our assessments are up here and the market's down here, and that's not fair. You know, I'm big about fairness.
But what is the cost of this assessment currently? I mean, is there a contract between the Town of Webb and KLW that's open to the public that we can review?
Absolutely, it's FOIL, you can FOIL request it at the town office.
Thank you. It's
Okay.
Bonnie Baker, our town supervisor.
Sure. Because I think a lot of the information you just said should have been available publicly. Like, there's no set time frame to file an informal review. That you can cut us off, say, in 10 days, in 20 days, in 30 days. Can't we establish a date where some of the second homeowners could say, okay, well, we have 30 days to do this. Let us gather our own information, let us hire our own appraiser to see what the burden of proof is.
So I understand your point. Just with the time restraints of when, there's specific dates that we have to adhere to, okay? So March 1st is what's called taxable status date in New York State. What that means is the assessor, every assessor in the state, whatever their taxable status date, has to assess that property in the condition that it's in March 1st. Okay, so a lot of times it's not a big deal for properties, existing properties, because nothing really changes a lot, right? Necessarily. But if you're doing an addition or a new constructed home, then the assessor needs to know how far along that house is as of March 1st to put like a partial assessment on. We have to send our assessment disclosure notices within a certain number of days of March 1st. Okay, so then we have to do all our work to get all our data done prior to basically April 20th. So we have from March 1st to April 20th as a window to do these informal meetings. So we have to schedule an ample time for property owners to do the research, to understand and to schedule an appointment with us. But then we also need time to do something with that information. So it becomes, it's a juggling game.
It is, it's tough for you guys, it's tough for us, and these are state
Listen,
dates, they're state
yeah, we
requirements.
understand this because we just went through this on a second home we own in another state, and it turned out to be a disaster.
Oh, I'm
A
sorry.
total disaster. You will not be able to, I can guarantee you, because I'm sitting on the Board of Appeal, I can guarantee you, you will not be able to handle the amount of incoming calls that you're gonna receive. I mean,
Okay, so there's, how many parcels in the town, 7,000?
6,000, just over 6,000.
Just over 6,000. We just finished the reassessment for the city of Buffalo with 93,000 parcels. We handled everybody to come. I think we,
This company did in 2012,
and we did it in 2012.
here, in Town of Webb.
correct. How many data collectors are you using?
Versus, like what's the proportion of data collectors that you use for that?
The data collecting has already started now, so we can collect data on your property now, and then it will be valued before March 1st, and then that's when the notices will go out.
Right. So we have 7 other people besides me working on the project, available to work on the project.
To do the data collection or to do the analyzation?
To do the analyzation and the value review and informal meetings.
The physical inspections of your property where we come out and take pictures, I think, we sent out postcards, did you receive the postcard? Where we come out and take those pictures, that's myself and Dana, our data collector. We're going around doing that. And we will have accomplished as very much as we can between now and the drop dead date for
Sure.
property.
And what's involved in your data collection? What are you physically doing when you come to the residence? Are you measuring? Are you peeking in windows?
Oh, no, we
Are
do
you
not peek in
assuming
windows, no.
that the outside of the house that looks
Manager, that it's
It's
that looks
outside
beautiful, that looks totally renovated in the last 5 years, that the inside is automatically renovated as well? Are you assuming that?
No, we don't make any
We can't,
assumptions.
because that's, if you can't go in the house, and if you go in one house, that's not fair to anybody else.
Sure, I understand that, but there are assumptions to be made on a house.
So basically, it's just to see, like, we have our inventory that we call, so it's your improvements, like garage, porch, any kind of improvement around there
Sheds,
on the outside.
concrete, pavers versus
Pavers is marked, yeah,
pavers is marked.
yeah.
So about windows and second stories, would you assume that that is a finished upstairs?
Like if there's a window in an attic.
Well, our inventory would say it's a 2-story house, or if you have a window above your garage, it's a story and a half garage. But we don't make assumptions that it's finished. We send out a mailer to you that will say,
or a mailer?
well, it's a mailer that it does have you respond to it. So it will say that you have a house with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, you know, whatever, you have 1,000 square feet. And if you only have 2 bedrooms, then you can cross out and mark 2 bedrooms. And there's a spot for you to do that and make any changes that we don't know because we don't go inside. You have,
The only, some of that, like the bedrooms and stuff like that, we can get from, because there's so many sales. So if that property was for sale and they list how many bedrooms, so we do that. We go like, okay, we have 2 bedrooms, but the realtor said there's 3. You know, but again, you guys can argue, you can come in, you can, like usually when I do my data collecting, like somebody's there, I'll say, do you want I can go over this with you, what we have marked. So I'll physically walk around the building with them and say, this is what we have. And so if there's something new, then yeah, I take measurements and write it down.
and you're more than welcome, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Danny, you're more than welcome to come into the office anytime. We can go over that property record card with you, and we can discuss what you have, what you don't have, you know,
Sure.
and make sure that we have our information correct. We do rely on the homeowner to
That's much appreciated. I mean, we
to help
don't,
us out.
This is what helps the process, is going through and saying, because there's a lot of stuff that fell down this year because of the snow.
sure.
But people don't come and tell us, so they're paying on taxes on something that's not there. So when I go out, I'm not just looking for what can I add to this person's house, you know, because that's not who I am, but also what's not there. You know, we have this marked, but it's not there anymore. So they're paying taxes on something that's not there.
Okay.
That's
So-
not fair.
Sure, and again, your name is?
Dana Pashley.
Are you an employee of KLW?
No, he's employed for the Town of Webb, he's the Town of Webb data collector.
You guys also work with the codes department.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so we'll take, new buildings that, you know, we'll take the plans, you know, there's a big building right over here being built. So we have the plans, so then we'll take the square footage, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, you know. So that's how we find that. I'm not going out to every house and measuring, and we go from the outside, you know, square footage of the outside of the house. A lot of people will go on the inside, but all our measurements are on the outside.
I think it's really important that the timeline that he's mentioning with the informal appeals and the formal appeals, that be something, if we're not privy to that contract, unless we file that paperwork, that information, that timeline be posted for the public, for all the residents.
We can
so
do
they
that,
know
we can post it on the website.
exactly how much time they have, although we're here all the time, other people are not, you know, our neighbors are not.
Yeah,
And so they will need to know about this. So whether it's a website, whether it's Facebook, whether it's a mailer, but some sort of document that gives us that breakdown of the time.
yeah. We'll post something on our website that gives a range of when the letters will go out and when you can be prepared, so you can get prepared for when they'll be prepared.
What I'll do as well is, for this presentation, I'll add the timeline to it, and then give it to you in PDF, and then you can post it on the website. So I quickly went to the assessment website. This gives you information of, well, let me just go back to the assessor's office, or the assessment office, and kind of what they do. But here it has information on updating the assessment information. And if you go here, you can hop on here, and if you want to go to this website right here, you can review your current property information here. So you can go there, look up what is on file for your property, and make sure that it's accurate. If you feel that there's something that's not listed appropriately, then let Tina's office know.
Yep. Sir, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, back to the intervals of reassessment. You said it's time, you know, maybe every 4 years. What's the policy? What are other towns doing here? They're doing that.
I cannot speak for what other towns are doing because I honestly don't know, but when I have been in contact with the state, we had to file a cyclical reassessment plan, and that is the guideline of the state to do it every 4 years.
So would we expect this again in 4
In
years?
4 years. That is the goal.
So that's a policy goal.
That is my
To me,
goal.
it would depend on the market, because if the market kind of steadies out, you know, so we're just so far off now. But if the market steadied out, then there's not a real reason to do it, right? But if we get out of whack, say it goes down, goes the other way, you know,
So-
then it'd be time to do it
Right,
again.
so you're trying to make things fair is what,
Correct.
you know, what you're saying. So we've all seen a lot of new property, new buildings, okay, so, you know, obviously you have more to draw from.
Right.
So even though, and this is hypothetical, we might see some areas, some places where assessment might go up, but their taxes overall could go down. Is that
Correct.
possible?
That is possible. That's
So-
what I would like
So
to
yeah,
see
you have
personally.
the you know, the school.
I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah,
the
no,
fair-
you're right, yeah.
So you have the school, you know, the school, you get a vote on what the school budget is, but,
Sure.
so you have the school, then you have the county, and then you have, the
That's
town.
another beef, but that's not you guys.
So as long as the town doesn't say they need all this more money, you know, it's just the way that it's divided out. And that's what this does, is go
Or
through
assessed $1,000, right?
and makes it even. You know, it's not, just because your assessment goes up doesn't mean you're gonna pay more taxes.
Is there a way that a homeowner can see the preliminary assessment? So part of that information gathering, you know, okay, I get my letter in March that says X dollars. It would be helpful for me because maybe I know some of the comparables.
So if you go to this website, okay, this image made online,
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, but our new assessments going forward will be based on market value.
correct.
And we can see that our market is selling minimally double our assessment. So,
Okay, no, I'm not trying to get at that.
no, so I'm just saying we can all personally, just so you can look at your assessment and say that it's probably gonna be close to, you know, is that a correct assumption, or am I totally out of whack here?
No, that's right.
And then by raising everybody together, that's what, because if you were just to raise, you know, people on the lake, you know, that's unfair.
Right, no, all I'm saying is, like, I know comparables around the lake,
Right.
right? So it would be helpful for me when I'm trying to do my does this seem fair? If I could say, gee, you know, what's their preliminary? So
Yeah,
not the final.
If you use this,
That'll have the preliminary,
So this
or
will
that's
have-
still gonna final approved.
It's hard to see, but you have the total assessment for this particular property listed, right? Yeah, so you have your total assessment listed. When we do our preliminary assessment and the assessment disclosure notices go out, this website will be updated to show the preliminary
Okay,
assessment.
perfect, that's what I wanted to know.
I hope so.
It should be.
It should be.
It should be.
They're in the middle of changing,
Are you going to vegan?
and we did, but we're still struggling to get it updated.
Okay.
And I've seen a darn tentative rule where there will be figures in red
Okay,
showing
Right.
you.
perfect,
Yeah.
thank you.
I just want to circle back to your question before, okay? So what other municipalities do, so I work all over New York State, I work with a lot of different municipalities. New York State real property law requires that assessors assess all properties at a uniform percent of value. There's no definition, there's no mandate of what that percentage can be. There are towns there's actually a town in my county that they did a update of everyone's assessment, so they did a reval. They did it in-house, but they maintained the 6% equalization rate. So they didn't want to go from, they were at like 3, they didn't want to go to 100, so they went to 6. I don't know why, but that's what they decided to do. So each municipality can decide what they want to do when they want to do it. There's no mandate for when a reassessment project should be done. Other states actually have that they should be done on a cyclical basis every 4 years. Is typically the norm. That's the International Association of Assessing Officers. That's their white paper and their guideline to do every 4 years. It used to be 6 years. Years ago it was every year, but then you end up, that's tough on the assessor and on property owners because everybody can get beaten up every year. So they do it more in a spread out, but New York State doesn't have that. Almost every year there's a bill that's put up to create this standard, and every year it never passes. So this is where we're at, and each town can figure out what they want to do, right? And it becomes problematic in many ways, especially when you have properties that are our school district that crosses over into different municipalities and they have different equalization rates and they do reassessments at different times, and then they have to equalize those values, and it gets wonky. It would be best if the state had a plan to do it every year or on a regular basis. But again, it's up to each municipality to decide how they want to handle it.
We did file a form with the state to do cyclical
do
reassessments
cyclical,
every 4
right.
years.
And that's decided by,
But I know it's not, there's no proverbial gun to my head that says you have to do it every 4 years, even though we filled out the form.
right,
Because it's not law. But also, while we're here, you can see there's a spot for comparables that you can pick when you're on your property that will give you comparables to your property through the computer.
So on there is assessed value, but also full market value.
right,
So the assessed value maybe has been, what you're saying, stagnant for so long. The full market value, okay, has
Yep.
been adjusted.
Right.
Who's doing that and how often?
The
is that
state
done?
does that.
So it's a percentage.
Based on what?
Based on the market, what the houses are selling for and what we had to assess for. So it's a percentage.
so that's where the equalization rate comes in.
Yep.
So what we want to do, the goal of the project is to get to 100% equalization. That means that your assessed value is similar to the market value.
Currently, we're at 57%, just so you know where we're at right now.
So the New York State Office of Real Property Tax Services has a department called the Equalization Board. What they do is they look at every municipality in New York State and they do a comparison of what the sale prices is in relationship to the assessed values to determine what the equalization rate is. So at 57%, they're saying that properties are selling at 43% higher than what their assessed value is. Now, that gets applied to every property in the town. Regardless of what kind of property it is, whether it's seasonal, year-round, commercial, residential, vacant land, it gets applied to every property. They don't segment out different neighborhoods and what the ratios might be for that. They don't segment out different property types. So what we have seen almost everywhere across New York State is over the last 4 years, 5 years, the value of residential property is appreciated at a really good clip, right? The value of commercial properties are not. They're appreciated, but not as much. Same thing with vacant land. Vacant land is not going up as quickly as improved residential properties. But that equalization rate that is primarily developed from improved residential properties gets applied to every property in the town. So the state looks at all of the sales that occur, again, over that 1 year, one year time period, from July 1st of the previous year to June 30th of the current year. And they look at that and say, okay, what happened in this time frame and when the relationship of the assessed value to the sale price to determine equalization rate.
Maybe you said this already, but I can't remember. Are we being taxed on the assessed value or the fair market value?
Assessed value.
It's gonna be assessed at 100%,
Yes.
80%,
No.
50%.
Our goal is to be at 100%. So in the new.
Why is that? Why not use that 50% versus 100%?
Will the millage rate go down if it's 100%?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So
it's
if
like
you think.
revenue neutral. Is that what
Exactly,
the goal is?
because the town board or the school district, they determine what the budget is and what the levy is. They do that independent, the school board does it in May, the town does it in the fall. The town is gonna do their budget this fall, not knowing what our new assessed values are gonna be come March. Okay, so they're done completely independent. So if you think about this, if the tax rate in the town, say, is $5 per thousand, right? And every property, unequivocally across the board, increased in value, doubled, right? Went from $100,000 to $200,000. The tax rate will be cut in half because the reassessment doesn't provide any additional revenue or monies to the town. It just redistributes who pays what. The budget stays what it is, regardless of what the taxable value of the town is.
Is there a cap on how much taxes can go up in the future? I mean, some people's taxes are going to go up, correct?
Probably,
Probably.
yes.
What's that?
In projects, what we see is that there's an old, I guess, rule of thumb, if you will, from New York State, that a third may go up.
This is what they
This
told
is the
us
problem
in
now, we just
Pennsylvania.
went through this last year.
Everybody's,
80% of the property owner's taxes went up. 20% stayed neutral.
Is that because the town?
We don't know why.
That doesn't.
We don't know why,
Yeah.
exactly.
That doesn't make
What
sense.
you're saying is.
Because-
that's why everybody's appealing.
Because if
I look at
and
the
this,
tax rate,
this,
look at the tax.
I just went through a
rate.
reassessment. I just went
We
through
don't
a
have a
reassessment.
tax rate, we can't get it, and you can't get a tax rate, a new tax rate until this whole evaluation is done.
And look
So
at
what will happen, that assessment disclosure notice will include a number of things, because the equalization rate is below 86. We have to provide a specific document. It has your estimated, it will have on it, you know, your 2025, I get my years mixed up. You'll have your 2025 assessed value, and an estimation that's gonna be reasonably close to the taxes that you paid. It will also have another column, it's a hypothetical column, of the 2026 assessed value and the estimated amount of taxes that you will pay.
Using the current military.
Using
No.
what rates?
Well, the mill rate's gonna change,
It is, but you don't know that, so how can you get that tax?
March.
because we do the calculations, we know so basically what the document is, and I wish the state would redo the document. We know what the budget is in '25, okay, and we know what the mill rate is, and we know what the tax, your assessment is.
Yes.
And that document will be reasonably close to what you actually paid. Essentially, when it says for the 26 estimate, people think like, oh, well, it's projecting forward, it's what we're going to pay. No, that's not really the case. We take the same budget amount, the same levy, the dollar amount, we have a new taxable value, we develop a new mill rate, apply it to the
Off
newest,
of what? You're saying you're developing a new mill rate off of what?
off of the new taxable value that we're developing with the project, utilizing the 2025 levy. The previous levy that we know.
Even though you don't know the 2026 rate.
Right. There's no way to pay.
It's gonna go
But
up.
yeah, you can assume
And you
it,
haven't
I mean, we
secured
can
the
safely
value.
assume a 2% increase in the levy.
2%?
Don't we have a
What
cap
kind
on
of
our?
So-
town increase or
We
tax?
do, we have a
So-
2% cap on our budget, so we can't go higher than 2% from the previous year.
Okay,
So the worst case scenario is 2%.
so using that 2% rule, you're gonna be using that for the 2026 tax assessment, what the letter you
They
sent.
may or not in that letter, but you can on your own. Once you receive that letter, you can take, in fact, you can take your
You can
assessment and
figure
figure it
out
out, yeah.
Yeah. So
We can provide that formula, we'll put the formula, I'll get it together.
we do, it's basically, it's not really a 26 estimate. What it should say is that if all of our assessments were in place for the 2025 tax year, this is the effect that it would have on your taxes. Because we don't know what's gonna happen we don't know what's gonna happen in 26, right? We don't know what's gonna happen to, what the town budget's going to be based on, what happens with material costs, what happens with labor costs, what happens with all kinds of, everything else that they have to deal with. Is there something major that happened in the town that has to be taken care of? So there's no way to project that. So really what that 26 estimate is not a 26 estimate. It's an estimate of if all of our assessed values were in place, this would have been the effect on your individual tax liability.
The thing I'm concerned about is people are prematurely putting their properties on the market now at a second home in another state. Because these scare letters were sent out using the old formula with a new assessed value, okay, based on 44.93 mils. So they're assuming their taxes are tripling. Our market is being flooded at our second home with new homes. What impact do you think that's going to have here in the town of Webb?
It's already here. It's all second homes.
I wouldn't say it's all second homes, this is my primary home now.
I'm 6th generation of Old Forge, and school attendance is way down. I have a 15-year-old daughter, you know, like, it's been going down.
So can we assume that the school tax may go down 2% rather than increase 2%?
We already voted on the school budget, I believe. I think it passed.
Just comparably, I live in another county here in New York State, where school taxes are a big one, town of Concord is small. Here it's the other way
It's the other
around.
way around, yeah. Yeah, our school taxes are very low. Actually,
Proportionally, it's the
I
same.
think taxes in general up here are pretty low compared to.
Right. Other places in New York State,
other
which
places.
is surprising. The town of county is that high, I didn't say that,
Right.
up here.
Especially given the services we do receive here for our tax dollars from the town. You know, our garbage pickup, our ability to take garbage up to the transfer station. Our sidewalks are cleaned other places you live. You have to go out and maintain your own sidewalk in front of your house in the winter or business. That's all taken care of for us. You know, there's so many amenities here.
Yeah, and honestly, we do
It's just
understand that.
amazing.
We live in a much more rural area than Town of Webb.
And Town of Webb is huge. I mean, it's big.
It is big, and
It's the largest, town by area in New York State.
in our second home, we have the largest township in our state. So to see what these are trying to achieve here, what we just went through last year in another state was, we know you have no idea what is ahead. I can tell you that you have no idea the amount of people, especially second homeowners, myself, the previous second homeowner, would have been very aggressive against this. So you're basing your study off of the Town of Webb that's mostly made up of second homeowners. Please do accept the fact that the second homeowners will be the ones appealing.
We've had that experience. I've been doing reassessment projects since 2004. It's not the first time, this is the second time we'll be doing one. I am aware of all these things. I know how people think of reassessment as it's a scary thing. It really isn't.
Ask the taxpayers that,
Right.
where we just sold the place at. Well, it is scary.
It is.
Well, if it's
Especially,
When
our municipality, thank God, they put the contract between Vision Government Solutions and our township on a website that we could all go and see. And what we realized is, for every new taxable parcel, for every new taxable increase, let's say there was a building that was off the tax roll, they got a commission for 10 years after Vision Government did. For 10
Wow, I
years
wish-
after on that parcel.
Can we change our contract?
No.
Sorry.
So, when we do these projects, I'm very much a proponent of transparency. I'm very much property owner has a question, or we put as much information as we can up. We try and explain everything that we can. When I'm not going to say that people's their tax liability will not be higher than what it is right now going forward. But what that really means is that their assessed value is not appropriate for that property, and they should have been paying more for years that have gone by. Because it is a redistribution, because when we finish our project, and next year, when the budget goes into place, and the town is figuring out what the new mill rate's going to be, it's going to be the new taxable value against their budget. The town budget by New York State, they can only increase by 2% every year by law. If they're going higher than that, they have to have a special meeting, a special vote. It has to be announced by the board members. I just went through that with my town, that they were not as transparent, and they increased the budget by 11.4%.
Correct, we went through the same thing with Kansas.
Yeah. So,
That's why.
but in New York State, in order to go and this is any taxing entity, whether it's a school district, a village, a town, a city, if they're going to go above, if their budget is going to be higher than 2%, they have to go through this whole other procedure. Most townships, and I think Webb is in the same place, is they do everything they can to not go above 2%. So your budget is gonna stay about the same. The levy's gonna be about the same. We're gonna have a new taxable value. It's gonna be a new mill rate, which is gonna go down. Probably cut in half, probably easily. And then that will be applied to properties. I mean, you can look now, people, my experience in doing this is people have a good idea of what their property is worth and what it can sell for. There are a lot of people that don't because they've lived there for 40 years, they don't really care, they're not selling, it's going to their kids. But through the resources that the town has with the sales that occurred, with everybody looks at what their neighbor sold for, and looks, oh, that house is so much nicer than mine, I'll never sell for that, or that house is a dump, I can't believe somebody paid that much money for it. That gives you an indication of what your house is worth. So you can look at what your assessed value, or what your assessed value is now, the equalized value, to show the market value, and you can make your own, thoughts on how you think that a new assessment's gonna work.
And I can sit here and tell you, as a property owner in the town, I feel the same way. My neighbor's house just sold for $460, and I'm only assessed for $143. She was only assessed for $180 something. So I'm sitting here going, wow, what is this going to do to my own taxes? He lives here, she lives here, we all live here, our town board. So this affects all of us. It's not just us, arbitrarily doing something that.
Understandably, just so it's, and I'm speaking for the second homeowners who are not here, because I once was one of them. As long as it's not a triggering effect that they feel that you are going after them.
Oh, God, no.
Because
No.
I kind of
We're
feel
all
that
being
way
affected.
for them, because of what we're going through on another property. We have commercial properties who are actually the opposite. We have several commercial buildings who are inflated values, inflated beyond belief for our commercial properties. You say commercial properties is generally revenue lower, they're actually.
Well, as far as when you look at appreciation over the last 5-7 years, commercial properties are not appreciating at the rate of residential properties. And in New York State, that's a problem. I mean, I've dealt with a couple municipalities that they're having formal grievances in New York State. It's called Article 7 when you file Supreme Court to challenge your assessment. They're dealing with those, not that the assessed value is too high because the equalization, the market value due to equalization is way over what the property value is. And people come, I just worked with one city on an Article 7, well, to stay out of an Article 7. The property sold for, it was an office building, which has been hurt the most. It was an office building that sold for like 1.1 million, and its equalized market value was 2.1 million. And that's, when the assessment was done on that property, it was appropriate. But now, because the equalization rate has dropped so much in that community, it increased the value of that property, market value, because of the equalization rate. And the quick decline of an equalization rate is due to the appreciation of residential property, not commercial. And it gets applied across the board. It doesn't matter what property type it is.
Another thing might be the July 1st cutoff. I come from a family of higher-end realtors, and we all speak. I'm a retired home builder, and we all speak on a daily basis. And I'm sure you watch real estate, and you're watching real estate around here now. Every day there is a new home, whether it be sold by the homeowner himself or listed with an agency. Every day, at least 1 to 2 homes are coming to the market. So that July 1st analyzation of how high these properties are valued at is changing. I think you can agree with me on that.
Except that I think here, we don't see that number of properties come on. So here, that's probably my biggest concern about the reevaluation is that we don't really know what the market is because there's like 3 properties a year that change hands on Big News Lane.
Sure.
There's just not that much there. And so when I look at comparables, it's either way old or not really comparable or whatever. So I'm not sure what it's based on. I remember the 2012, you know, what came out as the assessed value was really nowhere near what we could have sold our property for. There was just no way. I appealed, whatever, got 10,000 off. It just wasn't reflective, and to the point where we were going to sell it a year later, and it was going to be 100,000 less than what it. So, yes, I think that the market is really
Since
changing
July
fast.
1st, I watch the market every day. I watch every market every day, especially in Old Forge. There are new homes coming to the market daily.
Leanne checks the sales every day. I have
I think
a
that's
spreadsheet, I keep track of all the sales,
Sure, I'm sure.
what they're
I know
listed
you
for, what they're assessed for. And so I also keep track of how long they're on the market, how quickly some places sell versus others that are still on the market.
do. Sure.
And right
A
now,
lot of
the
that
hot
is due to
spots
price.
are like Gundera, Hollywood, I mean, Pawnee, like the Summit area. Those are right now are the hottest spots as far as sales coming through.
And they're so overinflated.
They
They're
are.
so overinflated, and that's why I think every township,
But that's,
every municipality is jumping on the bandwagon to say July 1st. Let's stop it at this past July 1st.
Wait,
We don't want to go anymore.
let me stop. July 1st is by law.
state.
We don't, it's not a date that we,
2025 was not by law.
Yeah.
You could have waited one more year to do this.
oh, to do.
Oh, to do a
assessment.
reassessment, no,
But
yeah, we,
the July 1, what you're talking about, the July 1 cutoff date of what, we don't consider any sales beyond that.
Yeah.
That is by law, and there's multiple reasons for that. That's so every municipality looks at it the same way, okay? For the state equalization board to do an analysis of what's happening in that community, you need a start and stop time. So if you consider things beyond that, it's gonna affect the analysis. Yeah. We also need, to come up with the value on a property, we're not using AI, it doesn't just spit it out, right? So we have to do analysis, we build valuation models, we apply those.
So if you don't use any algorithms in your analysis,
In essence, yes,
yes.
but they're what we build from our analysis of what's happening in town. And then we take the time to go out and look at properties, look at the photos, look at a lot of properties you can't see from the road. Look at the photos that have just been updated on them. Look at the aerial photography. Make sure that the values that we're coming up with are reasonable for that property. That all takes time, so that's why we have to have that cutoff date. We can't go all the way up to January 1st and do all this work for 7,000 properties in a month or 6,000 properties in a month.
As far as starting with the
4 years down the
assessment,
road, it's just going to be too long.
as far as starting this project, I went to the town board, what year are we in, 25? I went in 24, in the fall of 24, I started talking to the town board and went to meetings about starting the reassessment and sent out RFPs looking for getting quotes for how much and the whole process. So it's been a while since this has been in the talk and in the motion.
It's really not that long.
Oh, it seems like forever to me.
It's really not that long.
How much is it costing?
I don't know off the top of my head, honestly.
So was there a set value? Was there a
Yes.
set contract?
Yes, there is a
Yes.
contract.
Yeah.
Yes, with KLW.
Oh, what?
Millions?
No, God, no. I
No, I
would have
think
had a stroke.
I wanted, don't quote me, I want to say it's 200.
200.
Ours at homeless, or ours at.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
But one of
maybe a
the
little less.
property that we just sold started at 6 million. It's now ending at 11.48. Who's paying for that?
The project.
From Vision Government, yeah.
Wow.
11.48.
See, my husband likes to complain that I'm tight as bark on a tree with money, so I'm the same way with your money as I am with my own, so I would, no.
Our contract is a fixed price. The only options to our contract is if through SCAR, Small Claims Assessment Review, which is after grievance, or through Article 7, if the town wants us to prepare any reports to support that, that's an additional cost. But that's on a per diem basis. And that's for them to decide whether they want to do that. And it's not, that would not equate to millions. I wish it would be possible, but it's not.
Well, perhaps you underbid then. Perhaps that can scare me as a taxpayer.
Don't tell him that.
Duly represented.
It was like, our quotes are, I mean, our towns have to put out you'd have to get at least 3 bids.
Sure.
I think we were probably, I didn't ask about what the other prices were, but I think we were probably pretty competitive. We also were pretty tentative on our price because we also did this in 2012. We know the town, I know a lot of the nuances in the town. It's something, so there's a lot of known factors where other municipalities would go into that we have no
So
idea
you did a previous?
in 2012.
2012. We've been here for 15 years. I don't want to speak to any, like, we just moved here to Old Forge and we're here to find out
But we
information.
should have thought, we were young and dumb
Or
before,
And they're done that.
in 2012, because we're paying well over $100,000
A property,
compared to what we paid for the place.
yeah.
We're paying a lot more in tax, and we never fought it, we never appealed
I
it.
never
We
appealed it.
just,
We just paid for it.
we just did it, and now we're thinking,
We're not gonna let it happen again, that we're full-time residents, we wanna know where our tax money is going. I've been asked by our Board of Commissioners to sit on our County Board of Appeals for the property reassessment. And what I'm hearing now, I'm not sure if I wanna sit on the appeals board because I don't know if we can handle it. I don't know if we can handle it because of how butchered the reassessment was done. They sent out $10 an hour kids in their own vehicles with devices that would scan a property and tell you how long your building was. We have a manufacturing business in another state, and they were off by several thousand square feet on a building. Now, the burden of proof lies on me to hire an appraiser to appraise that property and also give it a value, give it a lot description, thousands of dollars we have to spend to go to the appeal.
I can tell you, when we go out data collecting, we physically go to each property, knock on the door if nobody's home, and we send out postcards so everybody knows, and we have identification. We take pictures of all the outside of your building, any improvements, if there's something new, we physically measure it from outside corner to corner, and then we send out an inventory letter if we make any changes. So that goes to the homeowner and gives you a chance to dispute what we found or what we didn't find. And then you're always welcome. I always encourage people to come in and talk to me. I'm there, I work for you.
I'm encouraged to hear that you yourself and the town representative is actually coming out to our
Yes.
properties to do the analysis. There's nobody better. In our instance, in another state, it was subcontracted out from Vision Government Solutions to a group of identifiers, they call them, to identify, changes on the property.
And you can even call our office, make an appointment. Dana will come out at an appointment, not to come in, but even to just walk around the outside of your property with you and go over what inventory you have at your property.
Well, we appreciate that, and that's why we're here today,
Yeah,
to find that information.
Thanks for asking all the questions.
yeah.
We like our community and we want to keep it as personable as possible, keep everything friendly and not on the up and up. We just want to make sure.
The scary part was the inflated values. I think we can all agree that 90% of these homes will not sell for what they're marketing. There's a few percentage of people in this country that can afford a $3 million house from the building.
I say that all the time, and
And
I
they
keep
still-
seeing things selling for so much more. It's just shocking to me.
Well, I
And I
think
would
that-
love it, if you ever want to stop in, we could go over
I
what
think
sales
the
I
cap
have.
is here though.
I
That's what I'm
hope so.
afraid in 4
I hope
years,
so,
in 4 years, maybe too long to wait for.
and we
another
can
assessment.
address that,
I felt we hit the cap 5 years ago. That keeps changing.
Right.
I did a town 2 years ago. The homeowner came in and it was in the Adirondacks, another part of the Adirondacks. And I think our assessed value on the property was $5.5 million, and he threw a gasket. Last year he sold it for $11.2.
I do agree. I don't see where properties can keep going up. I just don't understand where people
Well,
are getting their
It's
money.
a desirable
It's
area
just-
to buy, and
Yeah,
people are paying way
does.
over what the thing
You
is
guys
actually worth.
the market. Let's watch the market too. Let's watch
Yeah.
the real estate because generally
We
in the town of Webb, I don't see many homes coming up for sale in July. I see them in November, October. I don't see them in July. So what's prompting me sales, I think, is the inflated market. You know, so
Yeah, we will.
I think 4 years is gonna be a little too long, especially for $200,000, did you quote?
Yep.
I think it may be worth looking at another year or two.
We can address that.
You know, I think people will be more willing to say, hey, we'll help with that. You know, you can raise our taxes a bit to give us a reassessment. You know. Everything in the world is changing. This whole election changed everything.
Yep.
You know, everything is changing on a daily basis. So, you know, be cautious on that 4 year. You know, take a little bit of advice from an outsider. That it is changing.
Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? Anybody?
No. Very good.